Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm Chris, and this is Regular Guy Training. This is probably the shortest review process I have had for a product probably ever. This is a Streamlight Protac 2. This is the 2000 lumen one with the movable sleeve so that you can charge your battery. Uh, that is rechargeable, and it's got itself an improved switch, industrial air quotes, and I'm not even going to go much more into it because this thing is the worst. This is probably the worst product I have ever reviewed. And that really is saying something because I've gone through some really bad ones. I have just not reviewed really like other really terrible products. And the funny thing about this whole deal, right, is look, I get it. Okay. I've had switches die on me before. I've had lights die on me before. I've had stuff that's considered reliable go down before. It's no big deal. And a lot of times, especially with white lights that end up on rifles, something that I've learned over time anyway is that if you train a lot, it's almost like a disposable item because eventually the switches are going to die, or the tail cap is not going to want to stay tight anymore. Surefire scouts have a flickering issue over time where they'll start flickering per like recoil impulse on a rifle, whatever. Stuff goes down, it breaks, it wears out, all of that. But never before have I had everything not go right all at once on a light. So let's kind of lead off with this guy, right? This was attached to my girlfriend's rifle during a rifle course that she took actually a couple weeks ago, and actually last week, and that's daylight. That thing is just broken. And there was nothing actually done to warrant that. It wasn't dropped on the ground. The gun hadn't been kicked around or whatever. It was simply the switch was attached to the rifle and then plugged in to the light, and it sat there for a grand total of 2 weeks. It was used very little in the meantime, and then it was used during the white light portions of our 3-day class set. And upon beginning to clean the rifles and that kind of thing from last weekend, I discovered that the switch itself had broken in half, which is probably why we were getting a ton of flickering issues. In addition to this tail cap is probably the easiest backing off, loosening up tail cap I have ever seen, to the point where like I would throw for real torque into it, and inside of 90 rounds or so, it would be starting to go out, and I'd have to tighten it up again. Short of taping it over and like aggressively lapping it, and I actually doubt that would even fix it because tape on something like that generally doesn't fix anything. I don't really know how to fix that problem because that's just inherent to the tail cap's design, and there's nothing wrong with the seals or anything like that either. For guys that are wondering that, that's like a brand new seal. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no breakages or anything like that. I just don't know how to fix that problem, and what's funny about that is that this works great right now, right? And while sitting in your house or whatever, it'll come on, it'll do what it's supposed to do, no real big deal. But then the second you level a rifle and start using it in conjunction with that, it just refuses to do that. And this is going to go down as the worst kind of cool idea I have ever seen. I had cleared this up, right, to preserve the light so that it would make it through that class. But the seal on this sleeve so that I can, plug a cable into this side of the light and charge the light while it's on board a gun or whatever. That doesn't work either, because 2 of the 3 days that we were at this course last week, and oh, by the way, for those that have not taken a class with me before, if I don't have any restrictions as far as low light stuff, if I'm just able to do what I need to do, the first 2 days are pretty long days, because they're 700 rounds, sometimes a little more than that per day, and a bunch of that actually bleeds into the night, right? Because we have night shoots the first 2 of the 3 days. So it was out in the rain all day long, and nobody else had a white light functioning issue, and I had quite a few. And I believe that part of it has to do with this sleeve, because the sleeve itself decided that it was going to collect water on the inside of it. And you may or may not be able to see water droplets that are in the actual USB, like dried water droplet particulate that's in the USB-C. So this thing is terrible. It fails at everything it tries, and I have never seen a light that I want to just get rid of, because the thing is absolutely terrible. And I'm not even sure if whether or not I heard a weird crunchy sound. I might have broken the glass on this thing. I don't know. Nah, it's good. I guess it hit a stick or something. Point is that if you were considering the Protac 2 at any point, go buy a Surefire instead, okay? Go buy anything instead, other than an O-Light, because, well, memes, obviously. And frankly, every O-Light I've seen come out the class, they just kind of die. See, and this is sort of a recurring thing for me, right? Because one of the most recommended lights that I have ever recommended is actually from Surefire. That's their TLR1, especially the HL. They're really reliable lights. They go on for, they work for quite a long time on handguns before something eventually breaks. Right? But that's all I've ever been able to really recommend, right? Like, I got one of their Protacs ones, the smaller one that refuses to die. Every other Protac that I've mounted to any of my other rifles decided that it was going to just die. But there's one that just kind of refuses to die, and it's hung on for all this time. But I've never really been able to recommend the Protacs unless you're like making sure that it's pulled well away from the muzzle of your rifle, as far as muzzle devices and concussion and that sort of stuff, which is sort of a general practice that I would recommend to people in the first place, whether or not it's a Surefire or whatever you have on that, right? Like, just pull it back a little bit. You don't need it right next to that muzzle device. Yeah, you're going to give up a little bit of rail space with your hands, but at the same time, you probably should back that off a little bit just to preserve the life of the light. I just noticed that with the Protac series, they had a tendency to die a little bit faster than anything else that's considered reliable. Again, I have this one light that won't go down, but I've killed them all. And the TLR7s, I don't care who says what about the TLR7. We don't even shoot that much white light stuff, right? Unless it's a dedicated low light class. The stuff that we do in these 3-day sets and end up at 2,000, 2,100 rounds, this is like an hour and a half total per night. 3 hours total of usage over the course of a couple of days. And what's amazing to me is so many people recommend the TLR7 when A, those controls are absolutely terrible, and it's just really hard to get that thing on and off real fast, which, like, guys that just like to turn their stuff on and keep it on all day long and just wave it all over the place whenever they want to, that's fine. But if you actually want to have master control of the light, those controls friggin' suck, regardless of the generation that the thing has come out with. And 2, they just get killed. Same thing with these lights, but they're just the worst offenders, okay? The worst thing that you could have possibly had as far as this thing is concerned is a little bit of berm mud came back and hit the light. Ooh, big deal. Point is you guys have already got the attitude of this. This light is dead. That's enough, right? So this thing is over with. I'm done with it. I'm done with that Switch 2. Now that I've said that, let's say this. Plugs, right? So I got a lot of classes coming up. I'm going to Fitzpatrick, Alabama next week as of the posting of this video. So there's that. I have class openings coming up for, well, I have on the calendar scheduled place. Noblesville, Indiana is coming up in May. I have a vehicle class set up that you know, those are always pretty popular because it's pretty cool to have glass explode. The night vision course has been sold out. I'm going to Huntsville, Ohio again. That's going to be a good time because that's a rifle course, and that range is actually pretty well set up for that. There's a litany of other places. Oh, Eastman, Georgia. That's another big one, too. The freedom I have out there is pretty amazing. And a bunch of other places that I can go out and do classes and that sort of stuff. So if you want to do that or set up a private class, you absolutely can. If you want to support us through Patreon, you can absolutely do that. If you want to get something out of it, $41 a month gets you as much training. Thanks for the motorcycle ride. South Park references. If you want to get something out of that, $41 a month gets you as much training as you want with us, unless there's a class that's heavily on logistics, like a vehicle class or a private class. Other than that, whatever else you want to take with us, you can take with us. That includes like our night vision stuff. If you don't want to do that, and if you don't want to do the Patreon thing, but you want to support us a little bit greater, you can hit us with a super thanks. By just going through little tabs underneath this video, and you can like hit a little tip, throw a couple of beans at us so that we can continue to do what we do, because we are 100% funded by you guys. We don't take sponsorships or any of that junk, because I noticed that most of the time a product that's banged up was usually recommended by somebody that's an affiliate with that company. So there's that. Aside of that, we have a lot of other things that we're going through testing on right now. I put together a fake cog stack with an SLX 5 power, and there's a Holosun riding on top of it. The Jackal review is coming. This is more of like a little short review. I have another review coming up pretty close behind this, and that's of the Aimpoint Comp M5. I have a long-term review of the Daniel Defense 9mm 1911 that I posted the original review on quite some time ago. We're creeping up on past 20,000 rounds on that. I have the Holosun Comp that I'm going to do, and a litany of other things. That's just what comes to mind right now. So stay tuned for other stuff. We're still active. We're still doing our thing. And remember, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy.